So the new M movie, Quantumania, came out and I absolutely hated it. It felt like an AI generated movie with every stereotype a Marvel movie would have. There's this one joke about this guy that's really obsessed with holes, and at one point he gets shot, so he gets a hole and he screams, "I have holes now," and he starts eating someone, and then another character responds saying, and I quote, "I did not know he could do that." I also wrote this piece of dialogue down. Hope saves Ant-Man and they talk to each other and say, "Hope, are you real?" "Yeah, I'm real." "Then let's do this." This movie was written by a computer that has never spoken to a human being. Kang was good, but he never felt like a real threat, and the rest of the actors weren't putting nowhere near the same effort as him. But this movie made me think and talk about the MCU a lot more than usual. Probably because I've lost all faith in the universe moving forward, and this movie was the nail in the coffin for me. But still, before this new phase becomes the continuation of the mess the cinematic universe has become, I figured it would be fun to look back and rank the phase 4. An era full of flaws and rushed content, but with some good pieces here and there. Number 18. Man, this is gonna be long. At dead last, I have Hawkeye. Despite popular opinion, I actually really like Hawkeye, the superhero, not this show. I found him so amusing because in this group of giants, Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, the God of Thunder, there's just one guy with a bow and arrow. I love this snarky yet confident attitude in Earth's mightiest hero, and the MCU made his own rendition of it completely different from anything like the comics or cartoons, and I was okay with that. I still liked them. He played a memorable role in Age of Ultron as a father figure for one, and the insane climax that was going on in that film. Also, I don't think Age of Ultron is as bad as people think. It's definitely the weakest Avengers movie. The biggest issue of the movie is that it tries setting up so many things that you kind of forget what the movie's even about. Just how I completely forgot to talk about this shitty show. I thought he was pretty cool as Ronan, but I wish we would have seen more of it. As you can tell, I really like his character. So when I found out he was getting his own show, I was the only person that cared about it. But to my immense disappointment, when I found out this show was about a privileged white girl and her even more uninteresting family drama, trying to shoehorn in as much as possible in this one season, yet somehow still dragging out a lot of moments, I was really hurt. I still don't understand why Fisk had to show up, and then he proceeded to do nothing for what was left of this miserable show. I bet Yelena was really cool, just like how she was in Black Widow, but I wasn't interested in her plot about killing Hawkeye. Clint's role in the show was okay, but nothing too crazy to stand out. They did a better job creating a relationship between him and Wanda in the third act of a really cluttered movie than what they did in this show that could potentially be the actor's last appearance in the MCU. I genuinely do not care about Echo, and I have no idea how they'll make an entire show about her. I don't see people bothering to watch this show, and if it was cancelled, I doubt people would care. Man, this show is so nothing. Nothing is the word for it. Every episode was a genuine snore, and I'll be completely honest, I didn't even finish the show because it was that unbearable. I Am Groot was a waste of my time. I don't even know why I watched it. Probably because it was so short. The only episode I wouldn't consider to be abysmal is the last one. This show ain't even funny or charming. It's so obviously a mascot advertisement. Number 16. Eternals was really boring. I don't even have much to say. I'm not gonna talk about the plot holes or bare bones characters. I passed out 30 minutes into this movie and woke up to Harry Styles on my screen. I wish I never woke up. It was a damn good nap. Only beat by how good my sleep was when watching Dark World. Number 15. Thor Love and Thunder was the movie that really made me doubt any Marvel movie I was excited for. I knew Quantumania was going to be booty cheeks. It's an anime movie. Who cares? But with Thor Ragnarok and Christian Bale as the villain, I had genuine hope that this movie was going to be good. But my god, the way they fumbled such an interesting premise kills me. The more I think about this movie, the less I enjoy about it. Thor's character has only regressed from his character in Infinity War. That was really the peak of his character for me. Grabbing the comedic effect from Ragnarok and the seriousness from the previous movies, it created a perfect rendition of the character. And I don't think Taika Waititi cared for what was done with the character in these movies. Everything about this movie is just Ragnarok but worse. Thor's jock attitude doesn't fit with his character like it once used to. The side characters are now just straight up annoying. The locations are not memorable, even if some are really cool in concept. But the worst part is the villain. The villain!
All gods will die.
A mortal whose goal is to kill all gods, showing us and talking about the injustice these gods have done. Gore has such a good narrative to him. The beginning of this movie really made me think, oh, shit's about to go down. But what they end up doing with Gore the God Butcher is a guy that kidnaps kids, and it's just a boogeyman. Christian Bale is a phenomenal actor, and the fact that he's barely in this movie breaks my heart. Gore could have easily been one of the best MCU villains if they actually showed us more scenes of him being a threat. I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy this movie by the fact that Gore wasn't even the man from the first scene of the film, but a guy brainwashed by an evil sword. It sucks. His conclusion as a character is underwhelming too. What is the need of the MCU to having their villains turn around and say, actually, I was wrong? Y'all cannot make this compelling for the life of you guys. Stop trying it. Gore had a genuine point about the way gods behaved, and the more I talk about it, the more I hate this movie. Wasted potential. Number 14. I heard Daredevil was going to be in the show, and I also really like lawyer shows. But me turning on the first episode and it starting by probably wondering how I got here really pulled me off. From what I watched, it ran its jokes as if it was a mom's sitcom, and it was not funny in the slightest. A lot of unfunny jokes about scoring Daredevil and whatnot. This show failed to get my attention. I hope the new Daredevil show's good. I really want to, because I love that character to death. But I keep having these doubts in my mind that tell me that this show is gonna be trash. Number 13, Ms. Marvel. I did not watch this show, but it honestly just looks like a Marvel coming of age story. I bet it's not horrible, but it definitely doesn't look like the type of thing I would enjoy. Also, look at this villain's death. It's really bad.
Like a mutation.
Shut the f up. Number 12. This special sucked. I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a Marvel project that really proved itself as something unique and never done before. James Gunn's style really gave life to these characters, and the fact that he was able to create a bond between this group with no build-up beforehand was really impressive. Guardians 2 was more of the same goodness, but man, I was blown away by the Suicide Squad. It felt like James Gunn was told, for the first time, do whatever the f you want. It was incredible. It is easily one of the most creative films I've ever seen when it comes to presentation, and it really gave me faith in James Gunn and the future of the DC with him. I even mentioned the helmet fight scene in my Bleach vs. Chainsaw Man video, which had nothing to do with superheroes, but it had me doubting his future in Marvel, especially since it seems like his newfound passions were in DC and not Marvel. So how good is this special? You want to see Drax and Mantis running around for an entire hour with the same "we're aliens on Earth" jokes over and over again? This is the special for you. It's a story that is as bare bones as it gets, and it lacks any real charm or memorable dialogue. I really could not tell you a memorable sequence in this entire special. It was the most basic Christmas special I've ever seen. It felt like a genuine waste of my time, and although I hope Guardians 3 will be great, this special gave me some doubts on its future. Number 11. Look, this movie is not as bad as people make it out to be. Is it good? No. Is it necessary or adds to the character of Black Widow in any remarkable way? No. I don't know why they decided to make this movie, especially so late into the MCU. And no, it's not worth your time if you're not a diehard Marvel fan. It's honestly pretty bad, but the dialogue with the Black Widow family is actually pretty good, and it flows by quite well if I had to say. Yelena is also a really entertaining character, and her actress does a phenomenal job of animating her character into life. She's funny, she's charming, and her character is just really engaging to follow. But this movie really falls into all the basic MCU stereotypes. Really corny dialogue, horrible CGI, an atrocious third act, and an even worse cast of villains to make this experience all the more deplorable. I don't hate this movie, but once the third act started, I just wanted it to be over. My friend who makes my thumbnails really likes it though. He watched it twice, back to back. What if this show is actually good? But okay, this show was incredibly disappointing. Aside from the occasionally good episode, a lot of them were simply, oh, what if this character was this character instead? And ones that had an actually good idea, such as the zombies episode, was saturated with annoying jokes and characters. It was ass! I'll give credit where credit is due. The Doctor Strange episode was a genuinely amazing piece on the character, and I would argue is the most interesting version of himself we've had in the MCU yet. The Madman in Love, obsessed with reversing the clock, is an incredibly compelling story, but there are so few that stand out like this. The climax of the series was atrocious, and I don't think it was a series that needed a big bad. I have no hope for season 2, and I couldn't care less about this idea. The Marvel Zombies episode was genuinely a drag to fucking watch. I need to talk about the Marvel Zombies episode some more, because genuinely, what a waste of concept. It was so boring and so full of annoying ass jokes. I have no hope for season 2, and I couldn't care less about this idea if the direction of the show stays the same. Number 9, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I I don't know what to tell you, man. It's hard to really care. Falcon and Winter Soldier's relationship was good, and it really made me enjoy these characters more than I ever did, because honestly, I didn't care for them before. It's honestly not a bad show, just a boring story and uninteresting villain, since Marvel feels the need to make people fighting for a just reason cruel terrorists for some reason. Meanwhile, we get the good guys, a military fake Captain America that kills a man in broad daylight, and after said scene, gets to be the good guy for the climax of this movie. The whole final episode was atrocious, and Falcon's speech wasn't handled with much thought, since it comes off as more ignorant to present issues than it is. Not proposing a solution, but instead saying, well, I don't know what to do, but you guys figure it out, okay? You guys are the people in power. But Baron Zemo was a lot of fun, and this show got way worse the moment he left. Moon Knight is alright. I like that it really feels like its own thing outside of the MCU, and though it has a lot of Marvel-like dialogue, Oscar Isaac's performance really is memorable. The way he can act as two completely different people in this show is incredible, and they never feel like one and the same, even if they share the same face. I really enjoyed the first half of the season because the air of mystery was accompanied quite well with the story. But then all the problems fall right in. It really lost me in the second half when we had a bigger focus on the side characters in the world, which were nowhere near as interesting. The villain was incredibly lackluster, and that hurts me because I love Ethan Hawke, but he really was just a villain. The action in this show was also really bad, and it was one of the biggest drawbacks of the show. Honestly, every time an action scene occurred, I wanted to skip it over because I was more interested in the dialogue between the two main characters. I've never read Moon Knight, so I have no idea what it does wrong from the comics or what it does right, but from what I have seen, it's a perfectly alright show. I don't really care about it getting a second season whenever that happens, or him joining the Avengers. Number 7, WandaVision. The project to begin the Phase 4. Was it a good start? I'd say so. A lot of times Phase 4 feels like an epilogue of Endgame, and this is honestly a pretty good beginning for that idea. The first 2 episodes are incredibly boring, but the horror that was Wanda at the beginning of the series was really good. Vision's quote about grief was honestly one of the best lines I've ever heard.
If not love, persevering.
And could have led for a phenomenal realization from Wanda and an even better conclusion than the one we had. Wanda made for a fascinating villain until she wasn't the villain. Instead, it was Agatha, and why is she getting her own show? Quicksilver showing up just to be a dick joke, which I laughed at. I'm not proud of it.
Ralph Boner?
Its conclusion turned into another Marvel product, and it breaks my heart because this is genuinely amazing concept with great moments. Multiverse of Madness is a movie that is incredibly flawed, but I still quite like it. Starting off with the script. The script, you can throw it out the window. It's really bad. The visuals is the key here. They really help this poor script into making you actually care for the characters in one way or another. Wanda's character is really entertaining. This movie is called Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, yet it barely feels like a Doctor Strange movie or a commentary of the multiverse. Watching Everything Everywhere All at Once really spoiled me on the whole idea of the multiverse because this movie does not do its title justice. The Illuminati was incredibly disappointing, but man, the direction? It was really good. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is to this day my favorite depiction of Spider-Man, and still the most creative live-action movie visually. I love it, and he really brings the sauce to this movie too. There's a lot of really cool-looking moments. The Illuminati executions are brutal, and although I hate their inclusion as the obvious hype bait that they are, Raimi really pulled through in making their deaths memorable. I wish it really committed to the horror aspect of it, but still, the choreography on a lot of these fights were generally really good. Though Wanda's motives was the same as WandaVision, making it feel like there was no personal growth for Wanda in the entire thing, she was still really good, with her bringing most of the horror to it and genuinely feeling like a threat throughout the entirety of it. And then we have America Chavez and Doctor Strange storylines, which were nowhere near as interesting as Wanda's. The worst part is that the movie ends with a cliffhanger, and I did not find myself caring for what's to come. I'm not invested in the Doctor Strange lore, and the story did nothing to convince me that I should. It doesn't feel like a sequel to the first movie in any way, and I don't see the next one feeling like a sequel to this one either, so why should I care? Number 5, Shang-Chi. After got so many projects, this is the point that I would start calling them good. And Shang-Chi is good. It's nothing too deep. It's a pretty straightforward story, and it has its charm. The Mandarin was the best part of this movie, making for a genuinely great villain and having a deep connection with the main character himself. The choreography was spectacular. I wish the climax didn't culminate in big war, but I still really enjoyed Shang-Chi. His and Awkwafina's character's relationship was really fun. Also, Wong is in this movie. He's so sweet. Also, this movie has a Kamehameha, so it gets extra points, you know? Number 4, Wakanda for... Man, I don't care about this video. Marvel has rushed every single project that they've done recently, so I'm gonna rush this piece of shit video. Wakanda Forever, ass. Spider-Man No Way Home, ass. Loki, ass. Every single project I've talked about, ass. Even the ones I said I like, forget about it. I hate it. Number 1,